Picture it, it's September 1990, and the 19th issue of the groundbreaking Sandman series releases to the world. This awesome story was recognized as one of the best issues of the series, culminating with the win of the World Fantasy Award in 1991, being the first comic to do so. But then, out of nowhere, the committee behind the award made it so that no comics or graphic novels could win the award going forward. But what happened? And more importantly, why? If you haven't seen some of my past videos, you need to know that the Sandman series is one of my favorite books of all time. I didn't read it when I was younger because I was a little kid, but I had the luck to come across it later in life when I was going through some heavy things. And it had a profound effect on me personally and led me back into the comics world, especially some other great Vertigo titles like Lucifer and Why the Last Man. The Sandman series is one of the greats of the comic world and has won numerous awards, one of which is the World Fantasy Award. The World Fantasy Awards are a set of annual awards given out to authors of the best fantasy stories released the year prior. First established at the first World Fantasy Convention, an annual convention of professionals, collectors, and others interested in the fantasy genre, held that first year in horror writers H.P. Lovecraft's home city of Providence, Rhode Island in 1975. In 1991, the World Fantasy Committee awarded issue 19 of the Sandman series, A Midsummer Night's Dream, the award for best short fiction. Then the people behind the award made it so comics or graphic novels could no longer win the award, making this issue and the Sandman series in general to be the first and last comic to ever win the World Fantasy Award for best short fiction. And I asked you guys in the introduction, why did they do that? Well, we have two reasons. One is the official answer from the convention, and the other is my theory as to what may have caused them to change the way they handle the awards. But first things first, let's go over the issue itself, and then maybe you can see why it would lend itself to this category in the first place. Issue 19 was part of what is collectively known as the Dream Country arc, which contains 4 self-contained stories within the world of the Sandman involving Dream. 2 of these were adapted into the Netflix series Calliope and A Dream of a Thousand Cats. The last one was called Facade, which dealt with some forgotten characters in the DC universe. But the issue and story in question is called A Midsummer Night's Dream, which as you can assume was connected to the original Shakespeare story. In this issue, Dream has contracted Shakespeare to write 2 plays, including one of his most memorable works, A Midsummer Night's Dream. Shakespeare reports to Dream that he finished the story as requested, and Dream is having Shakespeare's band of actors perform the play for a special audience. The special audience, of course, being members from another world, in this case, the fairy realm, including Queen Titania, King Oberon, the mischievous Puck, and many others. Those I mentioned also happen to appear as characters in the play, and it seems that the play itself was made as a commissioned piece for them, to honor them so that they may never be forgotten. Understanding the story a bit, you can see why an award that focuses on the fantasy genre would even consider nominating it, let alone having the story win. So what was the issue really with letting the comic and other comics win? Well, it may have to do with the stigma comics had for a long time, and in some ways still do. Comics have a large and varied audience, from the readers who want something to pass the time to people looking for more complex storytelling, kind of like my channel. I have a lot of you guys watching, and I'm sure for a lot of reasons, but recently I noticed that a lot of you aren't subscribed to my channel. If you're enjoying the video so far, hit that like button, and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. Comics have always had the stigma as a format that wasn't to be taken too seriously. In the mid-80s and early 90s, storytelling became more complex and mature. Books like The Dark Knight Returns and the Watchmen series injected mature themes, political ideas, and more, invigorating the genre. The Sandman series opened readers up to more complex ideologies and philosophies involving theology, mythology, and much more. This is why many of these stories made it to the New York Times bestsellers list, as well as being the recipients of the Eisner and Hugo Awards, which are comparable to the Oscars and Emmys, but for storytelling. Or so why would an award that focuses on the fantasy genre suddenly not want comics to participate anymore? Well, we have a somewhat official answer from the people behind the award. At first it seemed that the rules had been changed afterwards so that comics and graphic novels were ineligible for the short story award, but according to them, this was always the case. Comics were never allowed to be nominated or win this kind of award. That's why they had their own special category under the Special Award Professional category. But to me, this answer seems like a cop-out. Why wouldn't they just remove the Sandman from the nominations altogether? Doesn't make sense to go through all that trouble just to have a change of heart afterwards. The running idea goes back to something I mentioned earlier about the stigma that comic books had, and still have at times, in that it doesn't stand up as a medium in comparison to books or art, and oftentimes are geared towards children with simplistic storytelling and themes. For Gaiman, the man behind the book, who also won other World Fantasy Awards for his work on Good Omens, he felt that the comic winning the award was significant to the comic medium. Words are okay, they get Pulitzer prizes. Pictures are okay, they hang in art galleries. But as soon as you put words and pictures together, people think it's for the illiterates. There's a cultural prejudice against comics. From his viewpoints and many others, comics get caught under this umbrella of prejudice to accept that a comic can at times be just as, if not more engaging than words or art individually. My guess is that the World Fantasy Award being fairly young at the time of the Sandman story winning, the people who ran it probably felt that accepting comics in the same written works would not bode well for the reputation of the award itself. But despite all the time that has passed since, they have not changed their stance. As one of the more respectable awards in the literary community, leaving comics out of contention in certain categories does not help to deter the reputation that comics have gotten stuck with. But for the most of us who love the medium, we couldn't care less about what people behind the fantasy awards think. If it's a solid story, we're gonna want to read it. That being said, maybe down the line we can move beyond the stigma about writing and drawing and reading comics. But that's it for me though. What do you guys think about this situation? With the Sandman being the first and last book to win this award, should they reconsider comics for the future? Or should we even care? Let me know in the comments below. And for more on the Sandman, and if we should integrate him into the DCU, click on this video. But for now, take care, and have an awesome day.
Not.
Then tell me what to watch for.
Any unusual behavior.
Said the pumpkin to the talking bird. Can you be a little more specific?